We normally associate teenagers with being whiny little brats, but we never think of them as being that awful. But these teenagers you're about to meet will certainly change that. Ever wonder what happened to teenagers when they got sent to prison? Here's 10 that got old while being in jail. Number 10. Eric Smith. Starting at number 10, we have Eric Smith, a rather innocent-looking boy who committed a horrifying, brutal crime at just the age of 13. In 1993, timid-looking Smith somehow lured 4-year-old Derek Robbie into the woods and took the child's life. Smith strangled and beat the boy's head in and left him for dead. Smith said he was bullied a lot as a child due to his appearance, and it had caused him to build up a ton of rage that he unfortunately took out on Robbie. Smith has been denied parole several times and will most likely never be released. Number 9. David BROM. Coming in at number 9 is one of the youngest mass murderers America has ever seen. Back in 1988, BROM was just 16 years old, and on one night in February, he killed his mother, father, 2 sisters, and brother with an axe. At school, there were rumors going around that BROM had killed his family. Apparently, he had been discussing his plans the day before. The police found out and took to the BROM family home, where they found the dead bodies of the family, and soon caught David, who was given 3 life sentences. David has a chance of getting parole in 2041. Number 8. Craig Price. Next on our list is Craig Price, who committed his first murder at just 13 years old. One of the youngest serial killers of all time, Price ended up killing 4 people and was arrested just before his 16th birthday. What a sweet 16. The span of his crimes lasted over 3 years before he was finally arrested in 1989. Price had been denied parole once before, and his current release date will be in 2020. Number 7. Bronson Blessington. The next person on our list committed one of the most infamous crimes to ever take place in Australia. At just 14, Bronson Blessington took part in the brutal gang rape and murder of Janine Balding, who was left for dead in a paddock after being drowned. Blessington was the youngest of the group and was sentenced to life in prison plus 25 years. He became one of the youngest killers in Australia to be given that sentence. And despite claiming he feels ashamed of what he did, he has yet to be released, and most likely never will. He's still in prison along with 4 of the other men involved in the rape and murder. Number 6. Lionel Tate. At number 6 is Lionel Tate, who at just 13 years of age was given a life sentence. He was one of the youngest people of all time to get that sentence after he killed his 6-year-old neighbor. The little girl had been found dead with horrific injuries, with Tate stating that it was just play fighting gone wrong and that they had been wrestling. The girl was found with fractures and had even been stomped on, so we can see why Tate was given the lifelong sentence. Without a possibility of parole, Tate will spend the rest of his years in prison. Number 5. Joseph Ligon. Next on our list is Joseph Ligon, who at just 15 years old was given a life sentence back in 1953. The reason for the sentence was because it was believed that Ligon was involved in the murder of 2 people, but he has denied any and all links to the crimes. He spent a good 65 years behind bars and only now has been considered for parole. But at 81 years of age, Ligon just wants out. Number 4. Howard Christensen. At number 4 is Howard Christensen, who at 16 years of age robbed and shot schoolteacher Ada Carey in 1937. Along with an accomplice, Christensen tried to rob Carey, but when she resisted, the boys fought even harder and ended up taking her life. With no death penalty back then, Christensen was instead given a life sentence and ended up spending a good 65 years in prison before he was finally released in 2001, only to die in 2003. Number 3. Paul Geidel Jr. At number 3 is Paul Geidel Jr., who at one point was the United States' longest-serving prisoner of all time. Back in 1911, at just 17 years old, Geidel Jr. was convicted of second-degree murder after he robbed and killed an elderly man. Having spent most of his life in an orphanage, Geidel seemed to have a bad start in life, and it didn't get any better when he ended up spending 68 years in prison for his crime. He was released in 1980, before he died later in 1986. Number 2. Jesse Pomeroy. Jesse Pomeroy, the youngest person to be convicted of murder in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Back in 1871, there were rumors going around that young boys were being brutally attacked by an older boy, but there were no solid theories. Investigators eventually traced the crimes back to Pomeroy, who was finally sentenced to life. He spent 57 years in prison before finally dying in 1932. Number 1. Brenda Spencer. Coming in at number 1 is Brenda Spencer. Before Columbine and Sandy Hook was a school shooting so infamous that it had people writing songs about it. In 1979, 16-year-old Brenda Spencer took a rifle to the elementary school across from her house. 8 children were injured and the principal and custodian were killed. But what was the reason she gave for doing such a thing? "I don't like Mondays," was her crass, simple response for taking the lives of 2 innocent people. She was given an indefinite sentence, most likely never to leave her prison cell. If you like this video, please remember to subscribe and leave a comment below.